Okay, Mike Walton, soldering demo surface mount, take 2.
Right, so we're going to have a look at these. These are 0603s, I believe, and they might be 0804s actually, one of the two. So they come in these little strips. We can just put it away, drop one out. As you can see, got to get it the right way up. So the idea is that we want to solder this little surface mount component, which is a resistor in this case, onto this board. I'm going to solder it into this space that says C2 because it's just free. Normally you would solder it into a resistor area. As I've spoke to you before, what nibble we got there? What nibble we got on there? Okay, fine. So it's all about flux. Really what we want to do is we want to solder up one pad, get the component down, and then solder the other pad. So we're going to put lots of flux on. I'm going to get our solder. I'm going to heat the pad, like so. I'm going to let the heat transfer. Then I'm going to apply a little bit of solder onto that. And when it's heated significantly, you'll see it flow like that. Then I'm going to remove my heat. Yeah, that is the way I'll get a perfect solder blob. Yeah, so it's heat, apply solder, remove heat in that sequence. Yeah. Whenever you heat a pad up with flux on, the flux gets burnt away. So what I'm going to do now is replace that flux. Flux helps the solder flow. Now I'm going to get my components and I shake. So if I can do this, I guarantee everybody here can do it. So I'm going to stick my resistor down there and I'm going to heat up that pad that I've just made until it goes molten. And then I'm going to push my resistor in like so. Then I'm going to remove my soldering iron like so. And then as it dries, hang on, let me get that better. Let's get that better, there we go. As it dries, it's going to grab that resistor, and then as you can see, I've soldered one pad, yeah? You can now look at it and think, well, I can just see a little bit of the other pad there, so maybe I'm not 100% happy with that. I just want to move it a little bit, so I'll add a little bit more solder, like so. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grip the resistor on the sides, I'm going to heat the pad again. And I'm just going to move it a bit further up. So, takes away the heat again, let it fold, and now it's in a perfect position, yeah? Everybody happy with that? So now I'm going to come along to the other side. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some more flux there. This is where I want to get my 45 degrees. So if I stick my resistor there, if I hold my solder at 45 degrees and my soldering iron at 45 degrees, I'm going to get the perfect joint, yeah? So again, I'm going to stick my, so I've got 45 degrees with my soldering iron, I've also got 45 degrees at an angle, yeah? So I'm going to stick my iron there and I'm going to heat both the pad and the chip. And then I'm going to feed in a little bit of solder, and once the heat's transferred, the solder will melt like that. I'm going to keep my soldering iron there when I remove the solder, then remove my soldering iron. And that, as you can see, is a perfectly soldered 0804 resistor, yeah? So the key here is flux, heat the area, apply solder, remove heat. If you heat the area and put the solder at the same time, you'll get dry joint. If you heat the area, put the solder in and then take both off at the same time, you'll end up pulling the solder up and it will look awful. If you heat the area, take the heat off and then take the solder off, the solder will stick to it. So you've got to follow that process, yeah, that four sequences. As for the chip, I would do exactly the same. What I would do, this one's already down. Let me show you how to blow it off. So let's say I've done something wrong and I want to remove that chip, yeah? For a chip, I'm going to go and use this hot air gun. So I'm going to stick it down here and put my tweezers. I'm going to take this chip off and I'm going to put it back on to give you an idea, yeah? In this case, I'm going to use hot air gun. Let it come up to temperature. The heat up, you'll start seeing the smoke rise.
Well, you have a full house.
When the smoke rise, eventually.
You have a full house, so they've all sort of gone away.
Yeah? So now I will take this board back over there and resolder this part. So I've actually salvaged that chip, no pins of bed, nothing. I haven't forced it off, I let the heat do the work for me in that case, yeah? Now I've obviously got a mess on these pads where I've removed it. So this is where we use solder braid, okay? Here what I'm going to do, and again, no harm in putting a bit of flux down, because it helps the solder heat up. So I'm going to get this braid here and I'm going to find a spare bit and I'm going to put it over the pin and I'm going to heat the pin through the braid. It's going to take a little bit of a while, but once I've done it and I can move my braid like this, okay, now I've cleaned that pin completely. So what the braid does is it sucks the solder, it like pushes the solder into the braid, as you can see, yeah? And now I have a perfectly clean pad, yeah? So I want to solder this chip onto this pad. We can see this dot here represents pin 1, and we have a dot there that represents pin 1. Sometimes you might have a flat edge, but either way, when you see that marker, you know the top left-hand corner is a pin 1. So, how am I going to do it? I'm going to choose a pin, doesn't matter which one, just one pin, and I'm going to put some solder down. So I fluxed it, right, and then I'm going to heat the pad. And once I've transferred some heat into the pad, I'm going to allow a little bit of solder to flow. Take the solder away, take the heat away. Perfect pad, yeah? So same again now. Let's reflux it again. Get into that habit, never have enough flux. Pick up my chip, position it roughly where I want it to go. Heat this pad so I turn that solder molten. And then place that pin down like so. Get it in roughly the right area. Let go, and then that's a little bit too soon. As you can see, I do have a shake, but I can still do it. This is. As it comes off, here we go. Get it down there, like so. Stop. There we go. Yeah. So I've soldered one pin. So now I have the option where I can correct it and reposition it. So it's a little bit sticking up. So I'm just going to flatten it down. So just heat that pad again, make sure it's exactly the right position, turn it off. Right, now all those 4 pins are lined up with pads, all those 4 pins are lined up with pads, yeah? Happy with that. So I start now, I can tackle these other pins. So I get some flux down, once the first pin's in there, it's going to hold itself. Now all I need to do is get in on the side of the pin. Yeah, this is quite a big tip on here. Normally I personally would prefer a smaller tip. So I'm going to get in on the side of that pin, heat it up a bit, apply a bit of solder. Like so. Now remove the heat. I'm happy with that. For a hand soldered pin, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's a really big tip, so there's no shorts, it's not shorted to the other pin. And I'll just go through each one of these pins now, one by one, and do exactly that. No harm in putting a bit more flux. So second pin down again, just squeeze the nib in there, heat up both the pad and the pin. Feed it a little bit of solder in there. Sometimes if it balls up like that, you want to get rid of that. So get in there, heat it up, a little bit of solder in there. There we go. Pull it away, perfect solder. Next one again. Look at the size of that spider.
Yeah.
Next one again. As long as it's walking your way, I'm happy. Next one again, right? So I'm going to heat up that one there. Sink. And I'm gonna see it's balled up again, and that means that what's happened there is I've actually put the solder too far up the nib, and that's what happened. So you need to get rid of that.
Okay, that's fine. That's the biggest one.
And that will happen because the nib's too big for such a small part. So get in there.
My cousin's friend actually bought tarantula into my home.
A triangular. I would not be happy with that. There we go. Yeah, and so I'd repeat that process 8 times all around the chip. Yeah. Happy with that? Any questions? No? No? Okay. So we know how to solder it. We start with one pin first, and then we put the other pin. If you're soldering onto a ground pin, then obviously you've got this ground plane, so you'll need to apply more heat. If you want to remove a chip or a component, it's best to do it with a hot air gun. And to clean the pads, we can use the solder braid. Yeah.
Can I examine it?
Sorry?
Can I examine the wound?
Can you examine it? If you wish. It's been soldered about 50 times now, so it's never going to be perfect. Yeah, probably a better examination if you really want to examine it. Do you want to have a go? Should we see yours?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, come on then. Let me take it off here. Let me clean it up here. If you want to see an example, here's an example. This is hand soldered, so you can have a look at that. That's, it
I'm
can
gonna
be
sit
done.
down and see.
Trying to raise
Yeah.
their expectation.
Yeah, well, it goes, because most people won't believe it. Most people are like, there's no way you hand soldered that. Actually, that's 100%.
No, I'm really impressed with the one with like 80 pins on it.
Yeah, that's the tough.
That's impressive.
What are the 80 pins on?
Can I buy those tweezers, please?
Yeah.
I'll get this chip off.
Well, I had enough of programming. That's why I'm just here.
Fair enough.
But I had to do it like an assignment. It was not bad. It was Python. You never use Python, right? Did you not ever use Python?
No. I did
Bro, you
Python
don't even
back
declare variables.
back in
That's lame.
secondary school. Oh, the chip.
Okay, you have to clean the pads first.
No worries.
Use that.
Is this wise?
It seems to be confident.
Is this
with
wise?
skills, so you might want to
I
keep
think
filming
so.
this one. This could be a
You want
cracker.
some evidence, do you?
Yeah, this could be a viral one. Then.
Okay. Let's make sure we've got it framed properly.
Well, you can. There's another way of doing it. Is I could place solder paste over the whole lot and then heat it up. Yeah, but when you've got little resistors and stuff, if you do that one by one, you'll find that they'll flick off and fly everywhere.
It's not bad, Mike.
It's not bad, yeah. If I'm doing a part, like if you look on here, this one here,
I want to post this
that is solder paste,
Got bored.
hot air gun to put that chip down, and for this chip. Yeah, so I would do that on there. If I was going to make multiple versions of the same board, then what would happen is, like I said when we were doing a PCB, I'd make a panel. Yeah, so it wouldn't just be one board, and then I'd shim from that panel. You see, and this shim would sit over the panel.
Can I
so
see
there's
that shim?
20 of the same boards here. Yeah, and the shim would